Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Roam with Romy, where I talk about life, love, and culture. Today's video is going to be a very serious video, another one. Now, it did take me some time to do this story because doing DV stories is very, very traumatizing. Even for me, I have thankfully never experienced it in my life. However, I know a lot of women who have. My heart breaks for victims of DV. Before I start, I must give out a trigger warning. This story will contain some violent images. There are images that might be very disturbing for some of you to see. If you are sensitive to DV, then please click off of this video at this time. Before I start the story, I want to introduce the young woman in question. And one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight her case is because there are a lot of foreign women who experience DV in Korea. The reason I'm highlighting this case in particular is because as someone who has lived in Korea, I know how DV is responded to. And it is barely responded to even with Korean women. Now, the good thing about this story is that she escaped. However, she is struggling to get the funds up for her court case. It really broke my heart watching some of her videos because you can tell that she's starting to get discouraged with her fight. So I think that it's time for us to highlight her story and also to help her know that she is not alone and there are thousands of women out there who probably will be able to assist her. I also want to mention that all of the proceeds from this video in particular and also from Courtney's video will go directly to their GoFundMe. Now that I got that out of the way, let's start this story. So our story begins with a young woman from America by the name of Rosette Mass. That's her name on TikTok. I wasn't able to find her actual legal name. However, we'll just call her Rosette. I want to start by first reading through Rosette's GoFundMe. The title of her GoFundMe is Help a Mother and Child Live Free of Domestic Violence. Now, her GoFundMe goes through the background of what happened between her and her soon-to-be ex-husband. And the parallels between her story and Courtney's story are uncanny. There are a lot of similarities between Rosette and Courtney's story, to the point where the stories almost mirror each other. We can find an age gap. We also find the abuse started when they were both pregnant. And also, they are both trying to seek custody of their children. I'm going to now read Rosette's story so you guys can get a better understanding of what she's been through. I've started this GoFundMe because TikTok is suppressing my videos and I haven't been able to raise enough money through their creator fund because of this. Please read my story. We're going to read it, girl. And we will support you. Don't worry about that. In 2021, an acquaintance told me about a teaching opportunity in South Korea. I had nothing going on, so I began my journey to become an English teacher. I started trying to learn the language on my own and met my husband who wanted to improve his English while I practiced Korean. We became fast friends and after a while it turned into more. He was charming, emotionally intelligent, thoughtful, caring, protective, and generally what I thought was a really good human being. We later began a relationship. I finished my college degree and teaching certifications, then moved to Korea to begin teaching and also meet who I thought was the love of my life. I began teaching at the school and lived in the studio apartment they provided. My husband, boyfriend at the time, would often come over and stay the night, and he'd drive me to work and pick me up. I cooked for him and we laughed together. Eventually, he asked me to marry him. I said yes, and shortly after, we learned I was pregnant. This is when things began changing. 3 months into my pregnancy, we had our first argument. I thought it was because I was so grumpy because of the nausea, so I wrote it off. We started arguing more frequently about simple things. But then we would make up, he would apologize, and he would go back to being the man I fell in love with. As my pregnancy progressed, it got worse. He began controlling different aspects of my life, like what I would wear, my hairstyles, etc. And I just did what he asked so that we wouldn't argue about it. These small arguments started happening much more frequently and the insults started. I was being gaslit at this stage, but I didn't realize it. He first shoved me when I was 9 months pregnant, 2 days before I gave birth. I was shocked, but he apologized and blamed it on his stress. I felt trapped and I could not travel because I was heavily pregnant. After our daughter was born and he started his business, we moved to his parents' empty house in the countryside. That's when he dropped his mask completely. I was a bad wife, a bad mom, stupid, childish, ugly, dirty, cheap, and much more. Anything I did or didn't do would cause him to blow up and spew profanities, derogatory statements, and accusations at me. No matter how hard I tried, nothing was good enough. Our relationship was completely transactional for him. I was forced to work at his business without pay for 8 months and bullied at home and in the workplace. He wouldn't let me study his language, and anytime I tried, it would result in a fight. He wouldn't let me get my driver's license. I wasn't allowed to call friends or family, and my phone was often checked by him and scrutinized. I wasn't allowed to wear my hair down or in braids, eat food that I liked, or any foods that he thought were too sweet, wear colors other than black, white, and tan outside the home. I wasn't allowed to speak my natural tone of voice, use my natural walking gait, or do any kind of hobby that made me happy. I wasn't allowed to have interests other than raising our baby, cooking food, or cleaning the house. He told me I had to change my hobbies and become an extrovert instead of an introvert because extroverts are better. I was insulted daily, controlled to an inch of my life, micromanaged, manipulated, yelled at, made to feel like a robot and a shell of the person I used to be. He would often shove his fingers or palm in my face or dig his fingers under my chin, slap me on the back of the head, or shove me when I walked by. If he perceived anyone to have slighted him that day by a tiny degree, it somehow was my fault, and I became the emotional punching bag. Y'all, this is a lot. The control became even more extreme, and the abuse got worse and worse. But still, he would sometimes show me a glimpse of the man I fell in love with. We were married and had a child together. I had no support system and was across the world from anyone that I knew. His family would only tell me to, quote, understand my husband's stress and forgive him, unquote. My breaking point was August 17, 2024. That was last year. An argument began. He provoked me by saying he was going back to his ex-girlfriend, then started turning off my bedroom light switch repeatedly when I needed to use it. I hit the light switch too hard when turning it back on. It got stuck on the on position and he couldn't turn it off anymore. That's when he flipped. I tried unjamming the switch unsuccessfully with a box cutter. While I held it, he shoved me into the bed, put his hand on my throat, and tackled me to the ground with his knee on my chest. He yanked the box cutter away while choking me with one hand while I screamed for him to get off. I slapped him and tried to get him off me. Eventually he stopped. I grabbed my screaming child from the living room and brought her back to the room to calm her down. He fixed the light switch within 30 seconds. 8 minutes passed and our daughter was finally calm. I set her in the crib and turned my back to the door to grab a diaper from the shelf. He then came up behind me, put a gentle hand on my shoulder, then punched me as hard as he could in the back of the head. I lost hearing and vision briefly and crumpled to the floor. He pushed me to the floor, got on top of me again, and punched me again in the side of my head. I screamed for him not to do this in front of our daughter. She began screaming in terror. I attempted to protect my face with my arms while he pummeled them, as well as the sides of my head. I screamed the whole time. After he hit me 7 times, he stood up and kicked me in the ribs while I cried on the ground. He took our daughter back into the living room, then came back in the room and punched me in the back of the head again after I had got up to my knees. I called the police and they wouldn't allow me to take my daughter to the hospital with me. and they did not arrest him despite seeing the baby camera footage of the attack where our faces were in clear view. I had a concussion and a broken rib.
My apologies, y'all. My mic died and my voice is a little hoarse, so bear with me. I will continue the story. After leaving the hospital, I stayed at a motel for a day and a half. Eventually, his father came and picked me up and brought me back to the house, where I was forced to get on my knees and beg him to let me stay at the house and apologize to him. If I didn't, he threatened to never let me see my child again. And because there are no protections for foreigners and little rights for women in Korea, it was 100% possible, and I believed him. A week after the attack, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Miraculously, he allowed me to take our daughter to visit her in the USA. I can only assume he started to feel guilty about what he did to me. For the next month, I lived trying to hide my fear of him and the PTSD I was enduring so that he wouldn't change his mind. I left Korea with my child on 9/14 with some important documents, a couple of changes of clothes, and 2 baby toys. I have no money and no savings due to the financial abuse. I have nothing to my name but my life and my child. On 9/29, I told him we would not be returning. I faced constant harassment since then. My husband has stated several times that he does not want photos, videos, video calls, or anything to do with our daughter, and that she's only valuable to him if he loves me, his exact words. That she's not his daughter anymore. Now he wants to take her just to hurt me. I live in a red state and I'm scared I'll be stuck with him with the new legislation talks happening. Since I am no longer in Korea, I am required to have a lawyer to file my documents with the Korean Ministry of Justice in order to serve my husband the documents. I am not allowed to do it myself. Living costs are expensive, childcare and bills are expensive, and legal fees are very expensive. I do not qualify for state legal aid due to jurisdiction issues. I just want to have a sense of normalcy again and heal. I want my daughter to grow up happy in a home free of violence and full of love. $800 to $1,500 will go towards professional translation of divorce documents into Korean. A lawyer skilled in international divorce and custody cases will cost me between $5,000 to $9,000. If you've taken the time to read this entire thing, thank you. I very much appreciate you. If you're able to donate, please share my story. Anything helps.
Notice how she met him at the height of the pandemic. In 2021, that's when Korea had the strictest social distancing rules. So not only is it her first time entering the country, she entered during a national crisis. I remember that time vividly, and it was not easy to meet with everyone because there were strict social distancing rules. And so I can only imagine that, 1, it's her first time in Korea, so she doesn't have any friends or family. 2, she's on an adventure during a pandemic. And 3, she didn't have time to really understand the red flags and cultural nuances of Korea because she just arrived. So for her, everything was exciting, everything was new, everything was fresh. I will also mention that she didn't come during a regular time. Had she come during a time where she could actually meet people and actually get to know the country during a time that's not as heightened as COVID, her outcome might have been a little different. This man completely love-bombed her. And that's usually one of the first signs of someone with an abusive personality. I will explain more. She said he was charming, emotionally intelligent, thoughtful, caring, protective, and generally what I thought was a really good human being. I know some of you are probably wondering, well, those characteristics and traits sound good, so why would that be a red flag? Well, because usually when men come out the gate with that kind of behavior and they start love bombing you, that's usually a sign of an abuser. And I have proof here. The Good Housekeeping magazine wrote an article titled 8 Early Physical Abuse Warning Signs According to Psychologists. There are usually nonviolent warning signs that can be easy to brush off or even identify until they crescendo into full-blown physicality. And they call these pink flags. Now, warning signs of physical abuse, the first sign is dual personalities. Being showered with compliments and affection probably doesn't make you worry that the relationship will turn physically abusive. And it doesn't always have to mean that. But when this love bombing is sprinkled with the little moments of meanness or control, that's a pink flag. In another article, and this was published by Psych Central, being showered with affection might sound like a dream come true until you realize it may be love bombing, a common tactic used by people with narcissism. When someone love bombs you, they often shower you with excessive or overwhelming levels of affection and adoration. While that might not necessarily sound like a negative thing, the goal behind love bombing isn't always so innocent. Some common traits of love bombing include providing excessive amounts of attention, admiration, and affection. The aim of this is to make the recipient feel dependent on and obligated to the individual. He was love bombing her. That man knew she was new to the country. And she also said that these are the signs of a good human being. So for her, she was happy. Like, hey, this man actually cares about me. He's actually paying attention. He's very charming, emotionally intelligent. This is what I've been looking for my whole life. Mind you, she just got to Korea. So she doesn't understand the cultural differences. And she doesn't understand that this man is actually a predator. She's thinking that he's a good guy. He's a friend. He's someone I could depend on. I don't have family here. I don't have friends here. I have no one here but him. So I'm going to lean on him because he's such a nice guy. And he knows my situation that I just got to Korea and we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so he's being very helpful. He's helping me. This whole time, this man was plotting on her, y'all. So now their relationship progresses and he asks her to marry him. And she says yes. Now, the time frame isn't specified, but I know for sure they got pregnant right after. And it is 2025 now. I'm going to estimate that it took her at least a year, within a year's time frame and some change, for them to get married and for her to be pregnant. When she got pregnant and when he was able to really hone his fangs into her like a snake and demonic entity that he is, then he had complete control over her.
Yeah, that's actually how he was before I left. I was a prisoner there. I was super isolated. We lived in the rural countryside. The nearest bus stop was a 30-minute walk away. I wasn't allowed to learn his language. I was forced to do all the housework, the child rearing. I was forced to work at his business for free. I didn't get paid despite doing a lot of work. I couldn't even step out on my front porch without being monitored. I didn't go anywhere alone with our daughter until the day at the airport. That was the first time I'd ever been alone with her. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to wear my hair down in public. I wasn't allowed to put my hair in braids. He made me dye my hair all the time to cover up my gray hairs. He monitored when I took showers, when I brushed my teeth, when I washed my hair. He monitored what foods I ate and what I drank. He would constantly call me fat if he saw me eating something that he deemed unhealthy. He criticized everything that I put in my mouth, despite me religiously tracking calories, eating under 1,200 calories for nearly 2 years. I would actually have to sneak food while he was asleep so that I could eat more than 1,000 calories a day. The only times I was allowed to eat a snack is if he bought it for me, and only when he said I could eat it. If I bought any sort of snack for myself, he would lose his mind, and a huge fight would start. And he did all this while claiming he was trying to protect me and live a long time with me because he wanted me to be healthy.
Rosette started filming TikTok videos once she escaped Korea. The only reason that she was able to escape is because her mom got breast cancer. So while he was abusing her, hitting on her, beating on her, her only saving grace was that her mom had cancer. And I also believe that he felt that she would come back because he had already beat her enough where he thought that she would be loyal to him. And he thought he beat her into submission.
So about a week after he did that to me, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She called me and told me the news, and I immediately broke down, and he happened to be sitting in the living room at the time. I can only assume that he had been starting to feel guilty for what he did to me, because he's the one that suggested that I go visit her with the baby. He immediately changed his mind and made up an excuse and said, well, never mind. But over the next week or two, his sister and I convinced him to allow us to go there. So, yeah, he actually bought the tickets, the plane tickets, and he signed an international travel paper, allowing me to take a baby across international waters, for an indefinite period of time. There was no return date. At this point, I think he was extremely confident, that I would come back, or given what he did to me, he was sure that I would try to leave him, somewhere in Korea first. So he was doing like a last ditch effort to show himself to make me stay or something. I'm not really sure. It's January now. I came back to the US with the baby September 14th of last year, 2024.
So Rosette finally made her escape. But this is not the end of her saga. This is only the beginning.
He sent me probably close to 10,000 messages, begging me to come back, threatening me, with legal things and emotional manipulation and, other narcissistic things that people do. I have not been able to file for a divorce yet. So we are still legally married. The divorce process has not started. Unfortunately, I am required by Korean law to have a lawyer in order to serve him the divorce paperwork. So it needs to be translated in Korean, which will cost about $1,000. And then the lawyer is another $5,000 to $9,000, depending on who I get, for international divorce with the child, so custody. So yeah, it kind of sucks. That's what it is. I have lots of evidence against him, about the abuse and showing that he willingly allowed us to leave. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Since she escaped Korea and she decided that she wouldn't return. And I thank God. Rosette, if you're watching this, you are very brave for doing that. Because I know a lot of women that would have brushed it off and would have thought that, hey, maybe he just needs time to cool off. And maybe if we return back to Korea, things will change. And the fact that you made the decision to leave and escape, I can only commend you for that. Because you left within an inch of your life. And she actually recognizes that in her videos. We're going to get to that soon. Now, this man has been harassing her since she left Korea. She said that she receives hundreds of messages per day. From September 29, 2024 to February 1st, 2025, this man has sent her 10,000 messages. 10,000 messages. So not only is he a narcissist, not only is he an abuser, but he also has control issues. And he is psychotic. He is fixated on her because how dare she escape him?
So I am physically away from him now, thankfully. But when I was there, I was not allowed to go anywhere alone, especially alone with my daughter. It took my mom getting cancer for me to be allowed to leave anywhere by myself. So unfortunately, something like that would not have been an option. I was under constant surveillance. If he wasn't home with me, one of his parents was. I was forced to work at his job as well, so going to work wasn't an option too because I worked with him for free. He wasn't paying me. So I was basically a prisoner. I wasn't even allowed to go on my front porch without letting someone know. I lived in a foreign country. I did not live in an English-speaking country. I was not allowed to learn his language either. So I was isolated and under complete control. It didn't start out this way, but over time, small things just increased. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to understand how could I let myself get into this situation, but that's part of it. It's narcissistic abuse.
So because she escaped his abuse, he no longer wants ties to their daughter. He continues to say, "My father said, I have to forget about you and Hannah completely. I agree." So his parents are in on this because they raised him to be a monster. The parents, both the mom and the dad. Y'all gotta remember, this is a country with very strong Confucian and traditional values. They believe that the man is over all. He's the king of the jungle. His own father told him forget about the baby because he knows his son ain't shit. However, I don't believe it's because they were trying to protect Rosette. It's because they knew she wasn't going to come back. That's all. Because the control was gone. She done left. She's not coming back. Let's read more. "I can't ruin my life anymore." What life did you ruin? You ruined her life and her baby's life. Your baby's life. Because of fucking rude, crazy American trash girl. That's what he thought about Americans. A lot of these men, especially in Korea, I'm going to be honest with you. Not all, because I don't need Korean men to come for me talking about not all of us think that way. But a lot of them think of it enough where you should be concerned. How they feel about American women reflects a lot. Some men, especially Korean men in Korea, they think American women are trashy. They think American women are loose. They think American women are over-sexual. That's what they think. They think that we are not worthy. We are whores to them. And that is exactly what his mindset was. Because when he started to date her, he probably had some stereotypes about her. And now what he really felt about her is coming out. No man who loves you would ever hit you, physically abuse you, mentally abuse you, emotionally abuse you, and say these kind of derogatory, degrading words to you. Ever. But you know what? That's what he always thought about her because he never saw her as a human. He saw her as a piece of property that he could own and control.
Since I've been back in USA, I have been eating things that I was never allowed to eat while I was in Korea. One of my favorite things is Lay's barbecue chips and Clausen dill pickles.
Another thing we found out from her TikToks is that her soon-to-be ex-husband forced her to lose 100 pounds before she could be deemed worthy of marrying him. If you want to lose weight for your health and your happiness, then that's one thing. However, if a man forces you to lose weight and says that if you lose weight, then I'll be with you, please run. Please run. He does not love you. He does not care about you. Now, if he's asking you to lose weight for health concerns, I could possibly understand that. However, again, it is your choice what to do with your body. The way it sounds is that he dangled the carrot in front of her and was like, hey, I'll marry you, but you're too fat. You're too this. You're too that. And once a man knows that he has that kind of control over you, it's going to start with weight and then escalate as we see that it had in this situation. Unfortunately, she was not able to see the red flags, but also the fact that she was very inexperienced in the culture that she was residing in. And weight, physical appearance, and how you look is a very, 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 very big thing in Korea. Korea is a very superficial country. You have to have a strong sense of awareness of yourself as a person to be able to navigate what is Korean beauty standards. They are high. And I know a lot of foreigners say, hey, it doesn't matter for us because we're not Korean. However, that still doesn't stop people from feeling a certain way when they're in Korea. And unfortunately, a lot of Korean people go by the beauty standards, especially Korean men when they're looking for a spouse. Not all. Like I said, I married a man who did not care. However, many men do. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to recognize the sign of a narc and a control freak because he has that kind of personality. From the beginning, before he could marry her, he told her to lose 100 pounds. That should have been Sis's sign to leave. However, she couldn't see that because she probably was like, well, you know what? You're right. I do need to lose 100 pounds. I'm not really worthy. I don't feel good about myself. I'm not confident in myself. And again, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I can already tell that this situation was that. He made her feel lower than what she really is because, again, he wanted to make it seem as if he would be the only man that would find her attractive. And he probably said, well, you're too fat, but lucky for you, I don't mind if you lose weight because I'm the only man who's going to tell you that. And I really care about you. And so I want you to lose weight so you can be with me because no other man's going to want you at that size. No other man's going to find you attractive but me. Control.
Since I left my husband, he has sent me thousands of messages begging me to come back. For the past few days, I've been feeling really depressed. It's Seoul, and I guess technically tomorrow, it's the Lunar New Year's, and he had my address, so I rushed to move. And in a moment of weakness, I sent him a message. He hadn't talked to me in a few days, which is really unusual considering everything that he's done. And I sent him a message and I said, if he would sell his business, which is failing anyway, and come here to the US and prove to me that he was willing to change, that he was willing to try to gain my trust again, that I would give him another chance, that I would go back to Korea if he came here for a few months and prove to me that I could trust him. I know it's really stupid considering everything he's done to me. I know how stupid it is. And I don't understand my brain. But he won't. He won't. And that just proves to me that everything that I was thinking was right. The reason why he's begged me to come back is not because he loves me. And it's not because he loves his daughter. Because he thinks of her as just property. He doesn't even ask about her. He talks about her sometimes. Says he has to make money for her. For me. And that without his business, he doesn't know how to make money. That he wants to be rich. But it just proves to me that the real reason why he's been begging me to come back is because he just wants to use my English abilities. He runs an English hagwon, an English academy in Korea. He opened it. It's failing. He's never had a business before. He doesn't do any marketing. I was doing everything. And then I left. He only wants me to come back so that his business won't fail. I feel really dumb. Honestly, I've been doing so well. I've been trying to be strong for everybody. For my daughter. For my mom, who has cancer. But it's just really hard. I just feel so hopeless right now. I feel totally stupid for coming on here and crying in front of strangers when I don't even let people around me see me cry. But I really don't have anybody else to talk to about this. I feel like I'm bringing everybody down or burdening them. And I just wanted to get maybe a couple people to listen to me. I guess anyone else out there who is struggling after leaving an abusive relationship, just know that if other people appear like they're doing well and they're strong and they have everything together, they probably don't. They might be like me, they might be pretending. So if you know anybody like that, maybe just check on them. Because I know I've been really low. Well, yeah, thanks for listening.
I think she got a bit of Stockholm syndrome. So usually a lot of victims of abuse, they tend to feel sorry and guilty for leaving their abuser. And I think that it usually takes women at least 3 times to escape before their final escape. And if they get to that point, usually women return to their abusers. Research has proven that. Now, why she was sending him videos and messages, we'll see if we'll get to that in her TikToks. However, notice how he used her mom in there, disparaging her mom while he knows her mom has breast cancer. This man is vile and evil and demonic, y'all. He is truly the epitome of what happens when a society does not hold their men accountable. And he's not the only one. This is global. And this is another reason why I cover a lot of these case studies, is because men like him are showing up and this is being normalized, y'all. The danger of narcissists is one reason why I emphasize nunchi over empathy. Nunchi can keep you safe from narcissists, while empathy will get you buried deeper and deeper. In fact, as it's often been said, narcissists are naturally drawn to empaths because the empath is constantly putting themselves in the narcissist's shoes to the point of total self-effacement. By contrast, nunchi allows you to try to understand what the other person is feeling or thinking without losing your footing. The best way to get out is to get out early. This man is literally controlling her by proxy. He keeps switching his words and trying to be nice and trying to show her that, hey, I'm going to try to change, because she said it in her video that he was trying to be nice to her so that he can reel her back in. If she steps foot in Korea, guys, I would be completely surprised if she makes it. This man is dangerous. He will most likely, I can guarantee, if she returns to Korea, he will unalive her. I have no doubt about it. Rosette decides to get a restraining order on her ex-husband.
Right, thank you for your comment. I'm actually kind of in limbo right now. I've been living in South Korea for the past 2.5 years. I actually moved to Korea to be with him. And we lived there our entire marriage. I came back on September 14th because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer and it's really bad, and we wanted her to meet my daughter in case she passes away and isn't able to meet her. And while I was here, I just decided that I didn't want to go back. Like, the thought of going back scared me. So after I told him that I wasn't coming back, on September 29th is when I started getting all these messages. Going from desperate, pleading, sad, mopey, promising he's going to change, promising we're going to have a great future. And now, as of yesterday, they're just really angry and aggressive. He's now going back to insulting me via text, calling me names. He's saying that our daughter is no longer his daughter. He's going to forget about her because I won't go back to him. Saying that he doesn't want pictures of her, videos of her. He doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. And he's just basically blaming all of his life problems on me. Like, that's not new. Anyway, I do have a temporary restraining order on him. I reached out to a domestic violence advocate shortly after I told him I wasn't returning. He gives us temporary custody of our daughter, and he's not allowed to contact us, but because he's still in Korea, there's jurisdiction problems. And I'm actually trying to get him served, like, for alternate methods, but it's difficult. I'm just waiting for the judge to approve it. Otherwise, it's honestly going to take months before I can get him served in Korea. So basically, because it's been granted, the temporary order, I cannot reply to him unless it's regards to parent time. But he doesn't know about the order yet, so he has no legal ramifications of sending me all of these messages. It's super stressful for me because I have to keep my text line open. I can't even block him. Right now, I've just turned my notifications off because he's just saying, like, the most cruel, mean things. Like, I'm not even going to say it right now, but anyway, this has gone on for a long time. Sorry. I do want to get a therapist. I know I need it. But I've kind of just been disassociating a lot of the time. We're safely at my mom's house in the USA. He is in Korea. His sister knows our address, so he might find it. I am scared about that. I do consider him to be very dangerous. He's extremely unpredictable. He's attacked me physically on multiple occasions. The last time I thought I was going to die, so to wrap this up, I do plan on getting into therapy. I do want help with, like, legal assistance programs and everything. But unfortunately, it's just kind of like a waiting game for me because I'm in Utah, so they have a residency requirement. I have to be here for 90 days to be considered a resident, and I haven't been here 90 days yet. So I just have to wait before I can do anything. It's pretty frustrating. Yeah, so thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. I'll try to follow the advice. Yeah.
One thing that's pissing me off about this situation is that Rosette is sharing her story on TikTok. And what I've noticed is that when you share a vulnerable story, especially about a group of men that people covet, they will always come out the woodwork and victim blame you.
Hi, Shelby. First, I'm glad that you have never been in an abusive relationship or experienced domestic violence, because if you had, you would 100% understand how people get into these situations. You see, the problem with people that have narcissistic personality disorder is that they are extremely good actors. That means, at the beginning of the relationship, they are very charismatic, they are very caring, They're very good at subtle manipulation. Most time people don't even realize it. Narcissists are very methodical in what they do. They plan out exactly how they will control people, especially their victim. My husband, when I first met him, was very charismatic, was very emotionally available. I felt like he had very high emotional intelligence, and I never thought I would be in a situation that I ended up being in. He was essentially the perfect husband. He did anything that I wanted. He bought me gifts. He seemed to love me really a lot. He was very thoughtful, very caring. And then I got pregnant and we were married. About 3 months into my pregnancy, he began to get irritated at me. And I thought it was because I was so grumpy all the time because of my morning sickness, all day sickness. I thought maybe that was just my fault because I'm not the most pleasant person to be around when I feel nauseous all day. But gradually, it just got worse. And he started to put me down in really subtle ways. And it was a slow process. The insults got worse. The degrading got worse. The psychological everything got worse. But it happened slowly. It happened over time. And I was pregnant, and I was married, and I was alone in a different country already. We had moved to his parents' house after I got married and lived in the rural countryside. I couldn't drive in that country. Yeah. Basically, a lot of stuff happened. It's not like it happened immediately, because who would be in a relationship with a man that they think is extremely violent and is going to put them into the hospital? I mean, really, nobody would do that. If you honestly believe that I would have put myself in that situation on purpose, knowing he would beat me up, especially in front of our daughter, why do you think I would do that? Why do you think I would put myself in that situation? Unfortunately, that's not how abusive relationships work. I suffer from PTSD. I suffer from anxiety and depression and other stuff probably now. But not everything is black and white. That's not how life works. I won't get into any other details. If you want to know more about my situation, you can just read the long comment that I wrote in my description. But I just wanted to say in the end here that I hope you never have to experience this, because I would never wish this on any person, woman or man. However, I do hope that you are young so that you have time to learn and have empathy for people, and maybe you can open up your mind and put yourself in other people's shoes and be a little bit more nice to people on the internet who you don't know.
What I will say is this, and this was based on my past experiences. When you have low self-esteem, and when you don't have a village to help you and to guide you in the right direction, it is easy for you to make these kind of mistakes. So why don't we teach people instead of condemning them? Why don't we educate them instead of condemning them? It's really, really hard navigating life without a strong village. And the more that society gets to be more individualistic and more isolating from a village, these type of situations will continue to happen. Living in a foreign country can remove common sense. I'll be honest with y'all. Because things that you see in a foreign country, it's easy for you to excuse it because you don't have experience in that environment. So we can't fault her for falling for him, to be honest with you. And we can't fault Courtney either. For them, these men are knights in shining armor. They're better than American men. They're better than North American men. But in reality, they're just as insidious, if not worse. Because at least in America, if you call the police, they will put him in jail. But in Korea, good luck. So Rosette goes on to talk about her legal struggles and how hard it's been for her to go through the legal process while living in America.
I'm now a legal resident in my state, and I'm legally able to file for a divorce from my husband in Korea. Been separated from him since September 14th of this year. I don't have enough money for a lawyer, so I'm having to do all the paperwork and stuff myself, which is really, really difficult. And because he's Korean and he lives in Korea, I have to go through the Hague Convention, I don't know how it's pronounced, and the Ministry of Justice in Korea. This adds on extra fees and time and paperwork, and it's just really stressful. I've been in contact with him for several weeks now, since the last time he decided to berate me and call me really terrible names and say bad things about our daughter. But he's not blocked yet. I just have all of his messages muted. He can't call me because I do have phone calls turned off for him. The messaging app that he uses to message me stops counting 100 messages at 300, and that he met that number within the first day or so. So I'm pretty sure I have over 1,000 messages right now. I'm basically not turning off the messages because I can use this as evidence for the divorce and for custody. I'm going to be very grateful for the day that I can actually just block him. Today, a random song made me think of something that he did 2 weeks after our daughter was born. I didn't really realize how much bad feelings I still had. because I've been trying to just like forget about my time there because it was so terrible. 2 weeks after our daughter was born, I was really struggling with breastfeeding, and I just wasn't producing milk. She wasn't latching on properly. It was terrible. I was feeling super depressed. He had been making me feel really terrible about my weight gain. I felt super ugly. I was sore, postpartum stuff. So I confided in him after we'd had an argument about something. I don't remember what it was, but we had calmed down. No more fighting at the time, and I confided in him that I felt like I was, like I might have postpartum depression. And I remember the look in his face, just completely dead eyes, like not caring whatsoever. And he looked at me, and he said, "I will never have compassion for you." And he meant it. He told me to get over it by myself. He was tired of doing stuff for me since the baby was born. He'd been on his best behavior for the 2 weeks after she was born up until that point. I think it was at that point that I really realized just how terrible of a situation I was in. I was stuck in this foreign country, alone, with a newborn baby, in a house where I didn't feel like I was wanted. I was just kind of there, I was trapped, isolated, being constantly verbally abused, and at that point the physical abuse had begun to start pushing, shoving his finger in my face. But when he said those words to me, I remember feeling like, it sounds weird, but I remember feeling like an actual crack, in my chest, as if my chest was hard and someone took it and broke it in half. It was at that point that I started to record the fights that we would get in. And I started noticing a pattern, which I later found out was the cycle of abuse pattern. I had no idea. I feel really dumb not understanding and not realizing it. How did I not understand that he was a narcissist? The thought never crossed my mind until I came here, and I started telling people about some of the things that happened. I still have never talked about the worst of it. But people's reactions to the small things that I have told them makes me feel really weird. It's like I experienced that, And I guess I don't really have a point to this video. I just had some thoughts, and I wanted to talk and not bother the people that are closest to me with these problems. So, in other news, I can wear pink again. Sometimes I still feel a little uncomfortable, but I don't feel that terrible anxiety. The next step, I want to cut my hair. I'm very nervous about that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that part alone. I have such a crazy amount of anxiety about it. He wouldn't let me cut my hair. In fact, he wouldn't even let me wear my hair down. I was only allowed to wear my hair up. And if I didn't have texture, sensitivity stuff, I would just keep my hair down all the time. If he files for divorce first, divorce is handled through the Korean justice system and not the American justice system. Our daughter was born in Korea. She is a Korean citizen. She's also an American citizen. But she lived the majority of her life in Korea. In Korea, the justice system highly favors the father, not the mother. He could fight me for custody, and I would be forced to go back to Korea until it is over, which could take up to a year, so I'd be forced to go back there. During that time, he may be granted temporary legal custody of our daughter because she lived in his house majority of her life. I actually know of a woman who lost her son that way. Her husband was abusive, and while she was preoccupied, her mother-in-law kidnapped her son, and she hasn't seen her son in 7 months, despite him being charged for child abuse and abuse against her. He still has custody of the child. Korea also does not protect foreigners whatsoever. They will favor the Korean citizen and not the foreign parent. It's not fair at all, but that's what happens all the time over there. So I want to file first so it goes through the American system. For your concern, I'm actually just getting off of work right now. I did get a job, but I've been dealing with some stuff. He sent me a message saying he's going to be coming here on the 25th, so I'm struggling to move. And I did find a place. It's really expensive, having a hard time trying to get out before the 25th. And I found out that I can actually file for divorce until I get a lawyer, because that's just how Korea works. You can't file paperwork, so an attorney has to do it for you. It's like the law. So that really sucks. Anyway, it's just a quick update. And hopefully I can, raise some money to get a lawyer, because it's going to cost me $8,000. So, yeah. I think I'm going to go no contact again. Usually he'll send me messages way more frequently if I don't respond. And also his messages recently back to being nice. But now he's rushing me to decide if I want to come back there or not. My health insurance starts on March 1st. I've been in contact with a therapist, and I think I'm going to make an appointment soon. I don't know if it's going to help. There's a literal war in my brain. There's a part of me that knows 100%, do not go back there. He put his hands on your throat, he's going to kill you. And then there's another part that says, well, maybe he won't. Did he actually try to strangle you, or was he just holding you down? Either way, it's not normal. It's not a normal relationship. But I almost feel like if he's not actually going to kill you, maybe you can handle the other stuff. I can't even say I wish I'd never met him, because if I never met him, I never would have met my daughter.
In the next video, Rosette explains a little bit more about her personal background and how she was a teen mom and had to give her daughter away.
As I'm laying in bed, my head will usually flood with thoughts. I'm sure this is common for most people. But I use TikTok as a form of therapy. And I know there are some of you who don't wish to see this type of stuff, and there are some of you who do. So for the ones that do, I appreciate you sticking around. Some of the thoughts that came to me tonight are about my husband. Those are some of the main thoughts that I have, given the circumstances. My husband is obsessed with my ex. His obsession makes him delusional. I often remember him, during arguments, telling me, "You've been married twice. You had a daughter with your previous husband." Neither of those are true. I was married once before him, and he knew that before I married him. And he did know I had another daughter before we were together. But my oldest daughter was not the product of my previous marriage. In fact, my previous marriage, though it lasted 7 years, we didn't have any children together, and he knew that. My oldest daughter was a teenage pregnancy, and I wish I was a better mother to her. But it is what it is, and unfortunately I can't change the past. Children should not be having children. My husband, during arguments, he would constantly say stuff like this. It's almost like he was trying to get me to believe his lies that he was telling himself. And I don't know if he was lying because he was genuinely confused, or if he was just using one of his many forms of manipulation. During most arguments, he would find a way to bring up my ex-husband. He would say things like, "This is why your ex hurt you," which is not true. My ex-husband was actually a fairly good relationship. We divorced for different reasons. He found someone else and went on his way because he just wasn't happy in the relationship anymore. But he never ever raised a finger at me. He never hurt me emotionally or physically. But my husband, my current husband, constantly would tell me stuff like this. And I don't know if he was trying to make himself feel better or if he was genuinely trying to make me believe it. But all arguments ended up with him talking about my ex, and it didn't stop after I left. I left my husband, and I still call him my husband because we are still legally married due to financial reasons and the law. It's an international divorce. It requires extra steps. But even after I left my husband, he was incapable of reflecting on himself. He thinks, and I'm pretty sure it's been 5 months now, I'm pretty sure he still thinks to this day that the reason I left him is because I've gone back to my ex-husband. He can't understand how I could be afraid of him, despite him beating me so badly that I had a broken rib and a concussion and ended up in the hospital. He can't understand that I left him because of that. No, in his mind, I had to have gone back to a man. And the reason why I didn't come back to him is because I'm here for a man. Sometimes I doubt whether he really is a narcissist or not, just because my memories, some things are conflicting. But when I really think about things like that, one of the biggest red flags to know if someone is a real narcissist is if they're incapable of self-reflection and self-awareness. And I think that is his biggest downfall. Aside from these thoughts regarding my husband, I've also thought about myself somewhat. Maybe it's because I've been sick and stressed, I don't know. My daughter, my mom, and I all have RSV. We've been sick for almost 2 weeks now. It's been kicking our butts. I've been thinking so many things. I'm so grateful for everybody that has been supporting my videos and donating to help me afford my legal fees. But I'm just so filled with apathy. I feel like, what's the point? After I get divorced, obviously I will raise my daughter, of course. But like, what else? What else is there? And I don't know if this feeling's gonna go away. I hope it does. Because it doesn't really feel like a life right now. I don't want to just keep living for others. I think it would be nice to have motivation to live for myself a little bit. Anyway, those are my thoughts keeping me up at night. Once again,
we see that her soon-to-be ex-husband used her past against her. And he was fixated on her ex because another thing that men like him do is that they don't like to think of your past. Men like him love to throw your past in your face so that you can feel worthless. And that's what he was doing to her. You've been married once before. You had a teen pregnancy. You're unworthy of finding real love. I'm the only man who will want to be with you. Who else would take you? And imagine, you got to think of the psychology behind this. I'm the only man who will take you. I'm the best that you can get. And the best is an abusive, psychopathic, demonic entity of a man. Another thing I have to mention is that mental health is still stigmatized in Korea. A study in 2017 found that in South Korea, nearly 1 in 4 individuals suffered from a mental disorder, though only 1 in 10 received treatment. 95% of South Koreans report being stressed, with staggering rates of depression among the elderly. The result is an alarming national epidemic that has only worsened annually for the past 20 years. Now, add onto that other disorders. We're talking about bipolar disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. We're talking about all of those disorders on top of this. Mental health is not something that is taken as seriously as it should in Korea. And unfortunately, as I explained in one of my lives, a lot of parents, they do not want their kids to go to therapy. They do not want to send their kids to therapy. You have children growing up with undiagnosed mental health issues. Usually, undiagnosed mental health issues in childhood become very serious issues as an adult. And compounded on top of that is a lack of accountability, treating men like the prize princes that they are not, and also holding men very high in society. This is what happens.
Private? Why don't you just talk to your therapist about it? I don't think I understand why it's private.
If domestic violence victims never spoke up about their abuse, I don't think I would ever have had the courage to reach out for help and start planning my escape. I would probably be dead right now.
It's private. Why don't you just talk to your therapist?
I'm thinking of doing a video with my husband on recognizing red flag in Korean men. I feel like my husband would be able to give more insight on this, so I'm going to try to see if we can do a future video together. Don't hold me on that, y'all, because I'm trying to get him to do it. However, I think it would be important for you all to recognize some common red flags that are in Korean culture if you do end up meeting and marrying someone in Korea. The nationality of the person and also where you live makes a huge difference when you are getting a divorce. And if that person is from a country like Korea, where again they favor Korean men, they favor the unity of Korean families and reunification of families, then it's going to be really, really hard for you to overcome that. And on top of that, she is not financially stable, and he knew that. So this is very, 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 very troubling and disturbing. This situation is very, very sad.
I'm losing my resolve. I posted 2 videos trying to raise money to divorce my husband, who is extremely abusive. They both went viral. They both have 200,000 to 300,000 views, and we're doing really well. And then TikTok decided to make them ineligible for the For You page. I don't have money for a lawyer. I left Korea with nothing, just my daughter and myself. And every time I try to do something about it, I feel like I'm getting blocked. Like, is this a sign from the universe? The type of lawyer that I need is going to cost $8,000 to $9,000. That's anywhere from 9 to 22 million views needed. Should I even continue trying? So I'm not sure how it works in other states in the US, but in my state, I actually did apply to a program that we had that would allow me to have free representation from a lawyer, but unfortunately, the lawyers there do not want to take my case. So the lawyers here would only take my case if he was an American citizen, we got married in USA, we lived in USA, the abuse happened in USA, but unfortunately none of that happened here, so there's problems with jurisdiction, and it would be difficult for them to win the case. So I would also qualify for free services to get the paperwork done, like the divorce paperwork done for free. However, in Korean law, an attorney has to file the paperwork with the Ministry of Justice in Korea. I am not allowed to do it myself. In order to serve him the papers, a lawyer has to do it. And that's why it's going to cost me a lot of money. And I've looked into it, and unfortunately, some of the cheapest lawyers that I found here who are familiar with international law and have dealt with international custody cases, they're very expensive. So I have to deal with a private lawyer because I don't qualify for any of the free programs because of jurisdiction. So I'm not sure how it works. I've reached a lot of people, not to make anyone feel guilty. But I also want to clarify that I do not feel like anyone is obligated to send me anything. In fact, the only thing I've ever actually asked for is just to interact with my videos. That's it. I've never actually asked for money. And in fact, the only reason why I even set up a GoFundMe and a Venmo and a PayPal is because I had hundreds of people asking me to do it. And I definitely would not want to make anyone feel guilty for not donating to me, because that's not what my account is about. I didn't make my accounts for donations. I made my account to relate to women and men all over the world who have suffered and been through and survived, or is still going through domestic violence. And I have. I've reached a lot of people. And although I've left my husband 5 months ago, I'm still dealing with the after effects. I'm still being harassed. I'm still being threatened. I'm still scared. And I'm also still struggling with CPTSD, PTSD, dissociative issues, anxiety, depression, trust issues, and more. Abusive relationships don't end when you leave, especially not if children are involved. And a lot of the times, especially if it's with a narcissist, they'll use your child against you. They'll use your child to try to control you. And that is what my husband has been trying to do. He's literally said that he would try to take custody of our daughter to destroy my life because he just wants to hurt me. And for those of you who have never been in a situation like this and have never known anybody in a situation like this, I can understand how it can be hard to relate. How can a person willingly marry a person who is abusive? But as I've said in previous videos, and I know many other survivors understand as well, that is not how abusive relationships start. And many relationships start with a person that you think you know, and then they completely change over the course of a year, a few years. They are not the same person that you began a relationship with at all. So yeah, I did choose to marry my husband, who ended up being abusive. But the man that I married is not the monster that I left.
Basically, it's a race against time. If she does not file for the divorce first, and he files first, then she may legally be forced to return to South Korea until the end of the trial, and the trial could take at least 1 year. She already has no money. She doesn't have any legal status in Korea. She has no financial backing. So in that situation, I can easily see how easy it would be for her to have to go back to his house or his family's house. And on top of that, once she touches foot in South Korea, they may grant him temporary legal custody. Why? Because the baby was born in Korea. They will always prioritize a Korean family and a Korean man over you as a foreign woman. So she has no legal backing over there. And on top of that, she has no family, no friends, no one who could back her up. So she is basically trapped unless she receives money through her GoFundMe. Then we find out that this man's business is failing, and he was using her to make money because he had an English hagwon. In case most of you don't know, hagwon in Korean just means a private school. While children in the West, after school, they go home, play with their friends. In Korea, after school, kids usually go to hagwons to study more. So kids can be in hagwons from right after school, so I would say around 3 o'clock, and sometimes they don't leave hagwons until 9 p.m. That's how rigid the educational system is in Korea. Now, this man owned an English hagwon. And of course, he needed her in order to be the face of the hagwon. Korean parents trust hagwons that have English teachers from abroad. That is just how it is. And especially since she's a young white woman, that's pretty much a moneymaker right there. If you have a young white teacher, because again, it's not like that now, but in the past, white was always right in Korea, especially when it came to teaching English. So this man knew that he needed a foreign English teacher. Remember, she came to Korea as an English teacher at his business, his establishment. So he plotted on her from the beginning. He planned on her. He plotted on her because in order for her to trust him, he had to gain her trust. She was not only his employee, but he started taking her to work, remember? Picking her up, teaching her Korean, being a friend, turned into lover. Then he used her for everything that she had. And one thing that these kind of men will do, as we saw in the last case study, is that they will use you. They will use you until you have no use for them anymore. And then they will unalive you right after. This man's business is failing right now because his main moneymaker isn't there anymore. People probably came to see Rosette Teacher. And Rosette Teacher is not there. And someone as unhinged as him couldn't run the business by himself. So he would use her skills, her marketing, her labor, and not pay her a dime. He used her to have his child like an egg donor. He used her for money because, again, he was pimping her out. He had no regard for her, and he did not love her at all. That's not love, y'all. That is not love at all, not in the slightest. The last video that she posted was a trend with her baby girl, and that is the end of the story. So, I would urge you guys to please, if you have the money or the heart, please donate to her GoFundMe. Go support her TikTok, run the numbers up. This situation happens more often than you think it does. And thankfully for her, she has the power of social media, and that amplifies a lot of women's voices who otherwise would never be heard. The lessons that we can learn from this case study is please beware of men who are too nice from the beginning. The good guy is almost as worse as the dangerous guy, because at least the dangerous guy shows you who he is up front, but the good guy will always mask it. And there are ways to detect whether someone is truly a good man or if he's acting like one. At the first sign of control, please do not stay in the relationship. Whether it's him not letting you talk to your friends, whether it's him calling or texting you incessantly every day, whether it's him controlling what you wear, who you see, where you go, please run. do not stay in that situation, because you can end up in this exact situation very easily. Another thing is, I would urge for you all to take mental health very seriously. And if you have some past traumas and you notice some patterns in your dating life and you keep falling for the same type of man or a similar man, please, I urge you to go seek therapy. I urge that because I think that in order to date someone, especially when you're moving to another country, you have to have a high sense of who you are. Your awareness of yourself and awareness of others has to be maximized by 100. Because I've said it once and I'll say it again, you are prime prey in a foreign country as a foreign woman. So please take care of yourselves and be careful out there. And make sure that at the sign of a red flag, the first one, don't let it be a second one, you run. Especially if he's showing signs of abuse early on. On that note, I hope that this case study was informative and educational. As always, take care of your beautiful selves. And until next time, bye.